Get ready for even more smoke across central Oregon, and hotter days are on the way. We're actually heating out of the 80s and well into the mid to upper 90s with some triple digits possible through the rest of this work week. Hey everyone, I am Darrell Winninger, the chief meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News, and today it's just been warm. Temperatures back to near average for this time of the year, bumping up about 5 to 10 degrees above where they were just 24 hours ago. And when we look outside, cameras have been similar through most of the day, where there's reduced visibility, so much so that you can barely make out Pilot Butte in the Bend camera over looking out towards the southeast. You can see Tumalo Mountain from the Bachelor camera overlooking from the top of Outback towards Bend, and you can actually see in several of these cameras we just have this limited visibility. Even looking at some of the Oregon Hazard Lab cameras across central Oregon, these are the fire detection cameras. We saw a couple of them on that last graphic, but there are even more. And above this smoke, there's actually more sunshine. There's very little in the way of cloud cover, and there's absolutely no precipitation in sight. And it's going to be like that through the next several days. But ultimately, there is an air quality alert that issued by the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality of the state of Oregon, and that stretched from state line all the way back over to the I-5 corridor. In fact, most of Oregon is in this hashed out area, except for southwestern Oregon and right along the coastline. In fact, when we look at the bigger picture, we see that most of the Pacific Northwest has this air quality alert from the DEQ, except for right around the coastline of Washington, the Olympic Peninsula, and the Puget Sound. And the higher elevations within Idaho don't have it. But this is until further notice for most of central Oregon. So let's focus on some of the air quality conditions. Right here, right now, we have poor air quality for most of central Oregon. And with this graphic, we're looking at two different air quality networks. The first one is the hourly average from the DEQ sensors, and they show unhealthy to very unhealthy air quality across most of central Oregon. The only spot that's not like that is Lapine, where the hourly average is moderate right over the greater Lapine area. And in North Lapine, closer to Lapine State Park, there's one sensor that actually shows unhealthy for sensitive groups. And the real-time sensors from this are coming from eSpace. The DEQ is where that hourly average is coming from. But there's one more network of air quality sensors that we could look at. These ones are a little more sensitive. These ones are also real-time sensors, and they come from Purple Air, and it shows the purple and the maroon through most of central Oregon, which is very unhealthy to hazardous. And the difference between the other ones and this one's a little bit more sensitive, this whole network. And some of these sensors, when they're showing, they're on a different scale where they don't just show the color that it's in. So when it looks like it's getting closer to purple, sometimes it's just in that unhealthy range. But either way, we just have poor air quality across most of central Oregon. This is one of the networks that typically don't show on air because it's harder to see the individual sensors, but either way, all three networks are showing that poor air quality. There's also a red flag warning that's in place for southwestern Oregon, just not central Oregon. On top of that, we have several heat advisories that are also in place, just not for our Tri-County area. And what's happening is there is a broad ridge of high pressure that's just anchored over the Pacific Northwest. This high is keeping any systems from coming anywhere near us, and there's a big heating dome just situated over central Oregon that's actually going to help temperatures pick up even more through the next couple of days. Instead of the mid 80s that we had today, tomorrow we're talking mid 90s. Then after that, we're talking mid to upper 90s with some triple digits expected and virtually no rain in sight, not even just through the next few days, but really all the way through the 7-day planner. What's interesting about this forecast model, this is the high resolution one, it actually shows smoke from those fires because I put it in a visibility layer for when there is fog, but now it's just smoke that's showing up. Outside of those areas of smoke, we're just looking at very clear conditions cloud-wise with no precipitation expected, not just through Thursday at 11 p.m., but really through the next several days. Meanwhile, relative humidity is critically dry. We're sitting in the teens with a few 20s, and our temperatures in the last 24 hours topped out in the 80s for most. Did get to 92 degrees in Warm Springs, and at the moment we're running between 5 and 11, really 7 and 11 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. That puts our actual temperatures in the 80s with a few 70s and 90s out there. This is where it sits right now. So it's warm. It's smoky. Tonight, it gets mild. It doesn't cool off too much. Some 40s are going to be expected, but I wouldn't open up your window to enjoy that because the smoke is just lingering around. And temperatures through the next couple of days are going to be topping out in the 90s tomorrow, then mid to upper 90s after that. Meanwhile, this smoke is going to be so thick for many of us that it's impacting our UV intensity forecast too. I mean, it's not like a lot of us are going to want to get out there and catch some sun, but we are looking at high UV intensity through the next couple of days, then it gets back up to very high. But for the most part, we just have no precipitation in sight all the way through Friday. So let's look at a couple forecast models because temperatures are going to be peaking in the mid to upper 90s with some triple digits Thursday and Friday, and then coming back down gradually, modestly cooling through the 90s, back into the 80s by this weekend. And this smoke sticks around as long as those fires continue to burn. But your forecast model really just keeps it dry. Again, not just through the overnight hours in the next couple of days, but all the way through this weekend and through most of next week. There's very little cloud cover expected and just no rain in sight. And our future precipitation model is just very dry. And that's because of this broad ridge of high pressure. Even when we look at the big picture, I wasn't expecting to do this, so the cities are staying put. It's the entire Pacific Northwest, and really most of the West Coast is just staying abnormally dry because of this ridge of high pressure that's just anchored over the region. Meanwhile, our wind gusts right now up to 20 miles per hour. That's not too impressive, but the actual wind speeds are more like 2 to 12 miles per hour. And through the next couple of days, each afternoon, it does get a little breezy at times, but that's about it. And that's doing two things. Number one, with winds that aren't getting as strong, it's better for fire weather conditions. But number two, when winds aren't that strong, it doesn't help push that smoke out of the area. So that's why I think smoke is just going to be lingering over central Oregon. And for tonight, we're talking 40s and 50s. By tomorrow, 90s. A few triple digits are going to be possible, but so are a few 80s going to be possible. Now, the 7-day planner shows we get the better chance of any triple digits Thursday and Friday as temperatures continue to heat, and this heating trend peaks on Thursday, and by Saturday and Sunday we see that temperature come back down to either side of 90 degrees, staying on either side of 90 degrees through the beginning of next week. So just to recap for you, our weather headlines for this Tuesday, August 4th: smoke lingering over the high desert. Heat is building across the high desert, and we're looking at very few clouds with critically dry conditions for all, not just central Oregon, but most of the Pacific Northwest. And during each afternoon, winds are going to get a little breezy at times. Higher wind speeds are expected later on in the work week, but that's because of the thermal variation. Temperatures really picking up, and winds are going to be picking up as well. So at the moment, across the state of Oregon, no rain in sight, very little in the way of cloud cover. Across the Pacific Northwest, no rain in sight, very little in the way of cloud cover. And even getting over the Pacific Ocean, there's not much happening because of this broad ridge of high pressure. That is the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast. See you then.